Guys, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us online today. We have our very own Josh Clendenen giving a message today on evangelism and outreach. We hope you all enjoy. Thanks again.
As I mentioned, this is kind of a cool opportunity for me. This is actually an answer to prayer, to my prayers, for about the last 2 years. God's really been moving in my life and has been putting a lot of things on me, and I've always prayed for opportunity. I've always prayed for opportunity to preach and going to places like Right Roads with my brother Scott or Place of Hope. I've had that opportunity going to Mexico. I've had those opportunities, Belize. I've had these opportunities. But one thing that I've always prayed for is the opportunity to give a message at home. Now, there's only a handful of Sundays in the year, and so for a pastor to give up his pulpit, it's not easy. So this is really an answer to prayer for the past couple of years, and so I just want to say thank you guys for hanging in there with me. This message is one that God gave me, and it's not one that I would have thought to ever really dive into. As Catherine said, I get to be the conduit that brings it to you today. So to those online, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. It's going to be good. So buckle up. Buckle up. Father, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for the time. I thank you for this congregation. God, I just pray right now that this message that you gave me, that I as your messenger be able to deliver it the way that you delivered it to me. Father, I thank you for this time, and I thank you for these people in Jesus' name. So Pastor Mark, a couple months ago, had started into the series, and it's kind of a never-ending series about revival culture. And the definition of revival is a restoration to life, consciousness, vigor, or strength. Restoration of life is interesting because, think about it, when you're asleep, you're missing something. So when you're spiritually asleep, you're missing something. I know that falling asleep is tough because obviously every time I try to put my kids to bed, they don't want to. They're afraid they're going to miss something. So in my faith, if I'm asleep, how am I missing things? What am I missing? I'm missing the opportunity to go out and to speak, to spread the gospel, to lend a hand, to build somebody up. I miss those opportunities when I'm asleep. But when we're in revival, when God has come in and he's revived us, we're awake. And we want those things. We want to start doing those things. But oftentimes, we're letting things just still slip away. We're revived, but we're sitting. We're stuck. But so today I want to talk to you about going and taking those things back. Taking back the things that were taken from you. It's not easy. It's really not. It's not an easy thing. But even the impossible with God is possible, right? So we're going to talk today a little bit about the story of David and Goliath. Now, I know for those who have been around the church for a while, we all know the story. Little man, big dude, rock, yay. We're going to talk a little bit differently, but to give you a little background, the Philistines had gathered their army, and Saul had gathered his, and everybody was afraid of this giant that would come out every day and torment them. And then there's this little shepherd dude, right, David, and his brothers were in the army of Saul, and David was just kind of out doing his thing with the sheep until his dad said, hey, go take this food to your brothers, make sure they're doing okay, bring me something back just to make sure, just to prove to me that they're okay. David wasn't qualified technically for anything that he was getting ready to walk into. David was not technically qualified to go up against the giant. He wasn't. He was a shepherd. And depending on where you look and depending on what research you do, you're going to find that some people say that David was as old as 20. Some people say he was as young as 13. So you put him somewhere in the middle, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. The age of some of our SALT students. All right? So he was a boy in the eyes of the armies. He was a boy. So like I said, he was unqualified for what he was about to do, but God, right? Brad, if you would, can you put up turn with me to, if you have your Bibles, to 1 Samuel 17, verse 34 through 37 is where we're gonna land. If you don't have your Bibles, it's okay. We'll pray for you. But if you do and you have that paper, turn. It's good. Pull out your devices, whatever. Verse 34. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear, he took the lamb and took the lamb from the flock. I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he rose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Verse 36. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. Verse 37. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. The reason that I stopped there is because we know what happens after that. You know, we listen to the story. But what God showed me is that in that passage alone, he qualified David for what he was getting ready to do. David chased down what was his. A lion or a bear came in and would take from the flock. And David chased down what was his, and he took it back. He took it back. That's why I've decided to name this sermon the Smackin Revival. Taking back our lambs. Now, when I say lip smacking, I'm not talking like, that's good barbecue. No, and I'm not talking about like those little love notes you used to get in college. You know, it says sealed with a kiss. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about lip smacking like you took something from me and I'm about to smack your lips off. This is, you know, I used to say that to my kids. I really did. I used to say that to the kids. You know, they'd be running around. I'd be like, I'm going to smack your lips off your face. Until the day that Isabel, our youngest, Isabel said that to Noah, our oldest. She said, I'm going to smack your lips off. I kind of realized that I should probably watch what I'm saying. It's no joke. It's no joke. But that's the kind of revival that I'm talking about today. Is about taking back what's yours. Smacking the lips off of something that stole from you. We let it happen too much. You know, prior to meeting Goliath, David was fighting other things off. You know, I mean, the Bible talks about the lions and the bears, but let's face it, this dude was in the wilderness. He was probably fighting off wolves and snakes, a mongoose, all this stuff. There was probably a tarantula came after him one day. Look, that right there is enough to, I'm out, take the sheep. You know what I mean? Not to mention all the weather. You know, this dude was living a hard life. I mean, my wife loves to go camping, but come on, that's a little extreme. You know what I mean? She'd probably dig it. Not me. But let's look at the two things that David had. Let's look at the two things that he mentioned. He mentioned the bear. You do a little bit of research, and it was most likely a Syrian brown bear, which is the smallest of the brown bears. Can weigh up to about 550 pounds. You know, can get about 4.5 feet nose to tail. You know, so just a little thing. I have a dog that's half that big. You know what I mean? But then the lion. The lion was most likely an Asiatic lion, which are very similar to African lions. They can get up to about 450 pounds. The height at their shoulder can be 3.5 feet. They have them recorded as long as, from nose to tail, as long as 9 feet long. All right, so it's a big old cat. Side note, jump back in the Bible a little bit. Goliath was, in the Bible, he was 6 cubits, 18 inches, about 9 feet. Think there's a little coincidence there? The things that God was preparing him for, the animals, the beast that he was preparing him for, and then this giant. Just something to kind of chew on for a little bit. But back to this lion. So lions, they have this tendency when they hunt, and oftentimes they'll circle. They'll circle the cattle or the things that they're hunting. They'll circle them and they'll start to get into a frenzy. So when it comes to like wildebeest and things like that, they'll start to get into a frenzy. And when they get into a frenzy and where there's all kinds of confusion, that's when they pounce. That's when they come out. But there's also the kind that don't wait for that confusion. They watch what you're doing. They sneak in. They prowl in. They take what they want and they leave. And you wouldn't even know they were there until until you woke up and saw that it was gone. There's stories of man-eating lions in Africa that'll work in pairs. You can look this up. They worked in pairs to go in. One of them would literally cause a distraction while the other one would go in and snatch somebody from a tent. That's what David was up against. So you got him with his sheep doing his thing. You got Yogi the bear and Simba over here trying to figure out, one's looking for a picnic basket, one thinks you are a picnic basket, and both are coming for what you have. Both of them can mess you up. Both of them can tear you apart without even thinking about it. But what was David's response? That's what was so crazy to me. What's David's response? Look in verse 35. I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he rose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Now, can I give you the subtitles for this? I went after him, you nuts. And I struck him, you probably have a death wish. And if he rose against me, you wet your pants. I know you did because I would have. I'm reading the story. I'm halfway there. I caught him by the beard. You did what now? And I killed him. That's what it is. Look, who's going to do that? Raise your hand if you're willing to do that. Yeah, that's what I thought, because I'm not either. But this teenager, this unqualified shepherd boy was willing to do it. He was willing to step out. He was willing to say, whoa, that lion just took one of my sheep. Not going to happen. I'm going to chase you down. I'm going to smack your lips off, and if you stand up, I'm going to kill you. That's how it is. But we as Christians, and we're going to get into this here in a couple minutes, we as Christians allow that to happen every single day. Every single day. David was willing to protect his flock at all costs. At all cost. Up to and including his life. You know, we have many service members in here, and there's the great analogy that when you swear your oath of enlistment, you hand a blank check to Uncle Sam that's payable at any time for the amount up to and including your life. That's something that our service members are willing to do for people that they don't know, for people that they've never met, for causes they may or may not agree with. But they chose to do it. They swore to do it, not because of politics, but because of sense of duty. David did that because the sheep were his and he was entrusted with them. There's a lot of reasons that those sheep were important to people in that time. I mean, their food, their commodity, they're your paycheck. Let one of them go. Let one of them go and watch the shekels leave your pocket. It's that simple. He had to take care of them because that was his job. That's what he was entrusted with. Those are the things that he had to do. But those actions qualified him to face Goliath. Remember, Goliath said, when he was out tormenting the army, he would say, choose one fighter, choose one person, send him out to me. If he wins, we'll be your slaves. If we win, you're our slaves. That is a big deal. Saul put that mantle on a kid because God qualified him. David never boasted about it. I couldn't find, and when I looked, he didn't really go around saying, oh yeah, I went out and I killed a lion today. It was cool. It was good. Got my sheep back. It's all good. No, he didn't do that. He did it because it was his job. But then when he met with Saul, he told him, these are the things that I've done. And the Lord who has protected me will protect me now. There is no difference. Look, I smacked the lips off a 9-foot long lion. What's this dude? All he is a lion laying down. That's it. He's the same size. He's qualified. He's ready. He's so ready that Saul looks at him and says, okay. Verse 37. And David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. The Lord who delivered me. Saul knew. Saul, wise King Solomon. Saul knew that it wasn't David who alone killed the lion and killed the bear and got his sheep back. He knew that wasn't him. He knew he couldn't do it alone. So it had to be God. It had to be God that provided him the protection. It had to be God that actually helped him kill these things. That gave him the courage, the boldness to walk in his calling, to be able to say, come here. That's my sheep. And what I love is that David didn't just go and just kill him. No, he smacked him. He said, give me, that is mine. That is mine. It's not yours. It was sitting in timeout. He took him. And then it wasn't until he rose up. Look, Goliath could have been sitting there talking trash all he wanted. But it wasn't until he rose up against the armies of God that David said, now you crossed the line. You rose up, and now you got to die. Without God, David wouldn't have been able to do it. David would have just been a shepherd in the field. David would have taken supplies to his brothers and probably went back. His brothers weren't happy to see him. I mean, you know that. His brothers weren't happy to see him. Oh, you just come to watch the battle. It's that car wreck you just can't stop looking at. But David went there for a reason. You see, when we add God, that's when things start to happen. When we add God, we're able to smack the lips off the lion, get our lamb back. When we add God, we're able to take back those blessings that have been stolen from us. When we're revived, and then we add God, now we're like, okay, wait a second. For a really long time, you've been stealing my finances. And I'm going to get those back. But you know what? You have some over here, and I'm not done. Because I'm not going anywhere until I get those back. Because God didn't tell me that I can have just a little bit. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and He's going to bless me. His storehouses are full. So I want what I had, and I want what I'm getting. It's not until we add God. The problem is, so often as Christians, we add God, and then we're like, okay, can I have it back, please? Can I have it back? Did David do that? Did David passively go, hey, Goliath, look, man, let's get some coffee. I know that things have been kind of rough. Things tough. Let's just call a truce. No. He said, you will die. You stepped up to the wrong plate. You have come against my God. And now you have to pay. Oftentimes we look at that and think about, oh, well, that's David and Goliath, and it's a great story, Josh. It is. And it's empowering to want to go after what God has promised us and to chase after these things. And that's good. And we forget that if we jump forward years and years and years, and we look at the New Testament, we see that the disciples faced many similar things. The story that has really just, it's just stuck out to me so much is in Mark 6, the story of Jesus walking on the water. I love this story. I love it because so often we look at the story and we think, okay, Peter stepped out of the boat and he had his eyes trained on Jesus and everything was great until he started to look around and he took his eyes off Jesus and he started to sink and Jesus saved him and, asked him and questioned his faith. You could preach dozens of sermons off of that. I'm sure of it. There's so much to unpack there. So much. But what we often skip over is what happened right after. Right before and right after Jesus walked on the water. You see, and I don't have a slide for this, but you see it says that Jesus made the disciples get in the boat and head back across the sea. So Jesus stayed and he prayed. He was like, you guys go, I'll catch up later. So they got in the boat, and off they went. And Jesus went and he prayed. And when he came back, he went and he saw them out on the water. And the wind, it actually says that, and the boat was on the sea, and he was alone on land. And he saw that they were making headway painfully, for the wind was against him. So here the disciples are. Back it up a little bit. They just came through this giant storm where, Jesus was asleep in the boat. They landed on land. They did some awesome things. Jesus sends them out again. And here they are, trying to make headway. The wind is beating at them. Bam, bam, bam. Coming at them hardcore. And Jesus is watching this. He's watching it. And he goes to them. And he walks on the water. And I just talked about that. He sees Peter and all this stuff. But here's what just hammers it home with me. Verse 6:51 says, and he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded. The disciples, Jesus knew what was happening. And we lose so much of this passage when we just focus on Peter. Jesus sent them out. They made their way. Not well. Jesus was watching. They made their way slowly. Jesus came to them, and the second that he stepped in the boat, the second that Jesus was inserted into the equation, the wind stopped. Not only did the wind stop, but they made their way. Without Jesus, you got the wind at your face. You're getting beat up. You're getting hammered. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to go, but you ain't going fast and you ain't going far. But you put Jesus in the boat with you, everything stops. Except for your forward momentum. Everything stops. A lion, a bear, a storm, it doesn't matter what you're facing. It doesn't matter. The disciples faced a storm, and when they involved Jesus, they went forward. David faced lions and bears, and it didn't matter because with God, he was able to take care of them, to kill them, to get back what was his. David slayed a 9-foot-tall giant when he did it for the glory of God, not for the glory of himself. Rafe just talked about it. David stewarded with what God gave him. He was a good steward. He took care of his responsibilities with his sheep. With little, he stewarded, and he stewarded well. And it was because of that, he was able to steward well with much. How are we as Christians protecting our sheep? This is where it's going to get fun. This is where it's going to get fun. God kind of showed me this as I was getting this message, just arrows getting ready to be slung. Not from me. I'm just the messenger. I'm just the conduit. But God showed me arrows getting ready to get slung. Because there are things here, there are people here that need the freedom. That need to actually ask themselves. That need to see what is being stolen from them. To identify those things. Because it's going to hurt. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. How are we as Christians protecting our sheep? Are we doing it at any cost? Are we willing to do it at any cost? I mean, I asked you earlier, who would be willing to face a lion and a bear? Not one hand went up. Not one. And that's tough. Not that that's a bad thing. It's not condemnation. Please don't think that. I'm not condemning anything because I'm in the boat with y'all. With the wind in my face going, come on, row faster. It's fine. It'll be good. But the bottom line is, if we're not stewarding well, if we're not taking care of our sheep, how can we expect others to jump on that boat with us? Are we letting the bears and the lions continually come in and steal from us? Are we letting the patterns that we have developed over time be like raw meat for these lions? Are we baiting the lions in? What are we doing? There's a writer for National Geographic named Mary Bates. She says this. She says, lions are extremely accomplished predators and adept hunters. For them, humans count as prey. Ignoring their prowess is a big mistake. Man, I couldn't agree with that more. You put me, look, I read a story about a jungle safari on a game preserve in Africa in 2015. A lion jumped through the window of a car, killed a lady. Yeah, nope. I will watch it on TV. I am good with that. Just kidding, because, yeah. My point is, ignoring what a lion is deadly. Look, 1 Peter 5:8 says right here, be sober-minded and watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like what? A roaring lion, seeking somebody to devour. You don't realize that he's there. He's coming after you. He's setting traps. He's prowling around. He's watching for that inroad. He's watching for a way that he can slide in there. You ever watched a cat or a lion actually sneak up on their prey? They're slow. They're methodical. They watch. They're coming after you. They're moving with you. When you start to go, guess what? They go with you. Until that one moment when you take your eyes off the horizon. And then boom, it is no more. The devil prowls around looking for someone to devour. Now, does that mean that we should live in fear? Or the devil's responsible for everything? No, y'all, we have choices. Come on. You can't pin everything on the devil because you made a dumb choice. I'm tired of Christians that say, oh man, the devil made me do it. No, he didn't. The devil did not make me get pulled over on I-65 for doing 80 and a 65. My lead foot did that. That's what it was. I mean, and that's the God's honest truth. That happened to me a couple weeks ago. It wasn't the devil. I can't be like, oh, the devil changed the speed limit. No. It is. Yes, I was doing 80 and a 65. I didn't realize that it went. Anyways, God bless that officer. God bless that officer. Because he busted me. Man, he had me dead to rights. It's true. You have to be aware and prepared for the devil. You have to be sober-minded. That doesn't mean, man, don't mix that up. That doesn't mean, oh, I can't drink, I can't go and have fun. No. It means keep your thoughts clear. Watch what the enemy's doing. Watch his patterns. He's watching yours. Ooh, that's a good word right there. Watch his patterns. Because he's watching yours. But in order to watch his patterns, first, you have to take the first step. And that's to identify. Brad, can you throw up this slide for me? What are your lions and your bears? What are they? Is it your work? Is it your family? Is it boredom? Is it social media? Is it your money? Is it regret? Is it shame? What's stealing from you today? What is stealing from you today? And more so, how are you responding to those? How are you responding to each of those things, to whatever the enemy is stealing from you? Are you just saying, I'm just not going to address that. I'll do it later. Procrastination, boom. I'll get to it later. I'm just going to let that one slide. It's okay. Oh, I only do that because my dad did that, and that's just the way that I was raised. Or are you over-addressing it? I will never do that. I can't do that again. This isn't happening. This isn't right. I'm over-addressing it. I'm going off the deep end. What are you doing? Look at that last question. That one hurts. Let that sink in for a second. Are you someone's bear or lion? Yeah. That one will get you. That one hits hard. That one hits hard. Is your action or your inaction, is that causing you to be a lion or a bear to someone? How many times have you said as a Christian, I know I've done it. How many times have you said as a Christian, they're always going to be that way. They're never going to change. He's never going to be different. He's never going to do what God thinks he could do. He'll never walk in his calling. He's nothing more than an alcoholic with a microphone. Ooh, boy, that one stings for me because I've had that label. I've had that slapped on me. A lot of you know my story. Oh, Josh is just a recovering alcoholic. Nonsense. Nonsense. You want to hear that story? We'll talk later. One question that I don't have up there. Are you your own lion or bear? Are you holding yourself back? Are you looking for validation where you shouldn't look for validation? There's a sacred cow getting ready to get slaughtered right here. You know, there's this really great personality test called Enneagram. A lot of you know what it is. And it is a great tool. But so often I see people use that for justification, for validation. Oh, I'm just this. I can never do outreach because I'm not an extrovert. I could never reach out and pray for somebody that I don't know because I'm just an introvert. No. Use the tool for what it was, to identify your lions and your bears, to identify the things that are being set forth, that are being spoken over you, that are wrecking your world. Use the tool for what it's worth. Don't put stock in it. Why are you letting your lions and bears define who you are? Too many people use it to justify their action or their inaction. Whether it's an Enneagram, whether it's a personality test, whether it's something on Facebook. Oh, well, this is the Disney princess that I am. Who cares, man? Doesn't matter. You got to remember, revival is the rekindling of life. And too often we get stuck in mourning what the enemy took from us rather than saying, I want it back. You took from me, I want it back. Years ago, the enemy stole life from us. Multiple times. We could have packed up. We could have said, we're done. I'm out. No. We said, not today. Not in my house. God, you made a promise, and I'm holding you to it. We found the lions. We found the bears. We took back what's ours, and in a matter of, it might even be today. We don't know. But in a matter of time, our promise is coming back. Y'all, life is summed up in a 2-inch concrete dash. Your life is summed up in a 2-inch concrete dash. On your tombstone is the year you were born and the year you die. Everything you do right now is that big. What are you going to let the lion and the bear continue to steal from you? Are you going to let the lion and the bear define your dash? Or are you going to take back what's yours? Are you going to chase it down, smack its lips off and say, not today? You got to step out and pray for someone. You have got to volunteer. You have got to bless somebody. You have got to walk the way that Jesus walked, the way that you're expected to walk as a Christian, and stop shying away from it. What is the worst thing if you go out to pray for somebody, if God gives you a word of knowledge and you go to pray for somebody, what is the worst thing they can say? Sorry. Can I pray for you? No. Okay. Guess what? Jesus bless you. You can't stop me from talking. You can walk away, but guess what? I'm going to throw blessings at you as you walk away. You know, when people get married, they're throwing rice. I'm throwing blessings. I'm like a blessing seed shooter. Come on. What is God doing for you? What has he done for you? What are you not doing because you're in action? Man, I need everybody to stand up. If you're able, please stand up. Men, I want to ask you a question. What are you doing? What are you allowing the lion to come in and continually steal from you? Is it your happiness? Is it your finance? Your family? Your health? Your leadership? Is it your faithfulness? Ooh, that's a tough one. Is it your purity? Is it your sonship? What is it? Ladies, let me ask you. What are you allowing the lion to come in and steal? Is it your joy? Is it your family? Your courage? Your peace? Your patience? How about your identity and your purpose? What about your faithfulness and your purity? Or is he stealing from you one of the most precious things that God gave you, and that's being a daughter of the Most High King? This isn't for me, this is for you. This is your time. I'm not asking you to call it out. I'm asking you to get right in your heart, to understand what God is preparing you for. Remember, the lions and the bears are only preparation for the big giant, a 9-foot tall giant. Stop focusing so much on this when you're looking at that giant. Stop focusing so much on 9 feet tall and look 9 feet in front of you. Look 9 feet down, because the enemy prowls. He prowls around. What is he doing? And what are you going to do to smack his lips off? Take back what's yours. Father, I thank you. I thank you for these people who are willing to identify the lions and the bears and the things that are coming and stealing from them on a regular basis, from the things that are repeatedly taking over. God, I pray strength. I pray courage in the battle. I pray that you give them 5 stones. God, I bless every one of them.
So glad you joined with us today watching this sermon from Southview. We are in the midst of our Building the Legacy campaign. So if you want to join with us, you want more information, check the link below and join with us on this amazing faith journey together.